Welcome to Creativity Talking. On today's episode, which we will leave unnumbered because we don't know if we're going to post it right away or save it for a couple days. But because this documentary is so good, it might come out earlier than predicted. Today we'll be talking about the documentary entitled Introducing Selma Blair and her fight with MS. We now give you Mr. V.
Thank you, Biff. Yeah, if you don't cry during this movie, you don't have a heart. It's mind-blowing. Right from, like, minute one. It's just amazing. If you haven't worked with disability or disabled people or... Yeah, if you haven't, this is going to be extremely powerful. If you have worked with people who are disabled, it's going to be even more powerful because I think this is one of the best documentaries I've seen on a personal struggle. That a lot of us deal with. And Selma Blair. She's my hero. So yeah, this episode is going to be more serious in nature as our normal ones were goofy, but, you know, people who are disabled, they want to hear the jokes. Don't be afraid to tell them jokes. Just don't be inconsiderate and a prick. Which, when you become disabled, you find out that half the population are just extreme fucking jagoffs and have no time because they want their fucking coffee right now and get out of my way, you limping motherfucking piece of shit. Oh, do I speak from personal experience? Why, yes, I do. And I spent about 10 years in the disability field, outfitting people's homes once they became disabled, quadriplegic, paraplegic, cancers, MS. I worked with a lot of MS clients, and this is why it hits so hard. I know a lot of people with MS, and MS is one of those ailments that you could be fine. It's Tuesday, and you're doing fine. Everything, moving along. You got plans for the week. You're going on vacation next month. You just bought a new fucking car, and you wake up Tuesday and you can't fucking walk. That's what MS is like. It's and it's different for everybody, just like any other disability. You can't really classify them in this. Yeah, disabilities will have some of the same issues, some of the same side effects, some of the same mechanical malfunctions in your body, or electrical, where it comes to your nervous system. There'll be similarities, but like a fingerprint, every disability is different. And a lot of people think they can, by being impatient, they can hurry the process along of people getting better. Well, relax, fucking Carol, sit down. And, it's going to take a bit, and you have to be patient. And if you think it's a shitty situation, what do you think the person in the situation's thinking? Because life can change on a dime. It's been proven many times, and it happens frequently. And, one of the best things that ever happened to me personally was becoming disabled and gave me patience because I had zero when I was in my 20s. And, when the universe slaps you down and says, hey, time to take a fucking break, well, you can't not listen. Because you don't have a choice, because you can't move, you're in pain, this, that, and the other, da-da-da, you can't work, this, that. And, you have a lot of these people, fucking blowhard ass fucks who are out there, oh, fucking disabled, blah, blah, he's on fucking disability, go fuck yourself. For anyone with that opinion, go fuck yourself with the fucking log. Yeah, being disabled isn't fun. It's a fucking full-time job for a lot of people. And, it's constant. Oh, what are you going to do? Fuck, I can't sleep. Well, in order to sleep, you got to take this and da-da-da-da. Well, now I'm tired for the next 3 days because I expended my energy doing this one thing that was fun. Even though it was 5-10 minutes, you still sucked out the energy for the next 3 days. And now you got to go to PT. Okay, after the PT, then you got to go get another MRI. Then after the MRI, oh shit, do I have a ride? Fuck, no, I don't have a ride. Why? Because I can't drive. God damn it. Well, now I got to do there's 17 things in a row. And, and it's tricky if you're by yourself. And, granted, we're talking about this documentary, Introducing Selma Blair. She has assistants, and, she's had bigger jobs in the past, but it's not like she's a cajillionaire. Sure, does she have some things that make it a little easier for her because of her name? Yeah, she probably gets better access right off the bat, but not necessarily. The insurance companies are still as big of dicks as they are to you and me. And by the way, the number one job for insurance companies for people who are out there is just starting this or starting a battle with disability or long-term illness. They're going to say no every fucking time right off the bat. So you be prepared to battle. A lot of people, they don't have the fight in them, and they're like, and then they walk away. Oh, and the insurance company wins because now they don't have to pay the money, and who's going to know? So always fight. Always fight the insurance companies. There are ways to get the help you need, through writing letters, talking to consultants, talking to people who navigate through the healthcare system itself. There are a lot of ways that you can get the help, the attention, and the benefit that you need in order to make your life a little bit better, even just operationally while you're going through this. It's like being in prison in a way. A lot of it, sometimes you are in a prison. Sometimes you're in a prison in your mind. You can't move out of your bed. Can't do this. You got other things going on. Now, because of your disability, it's triggered something else, and now you have a side thing going on that now can suck up your main focus and then affect the way that you're healing and moving forward from your original situation that you have going on. So it can create a circle of just nonstop, just personal hell. And for anyone who's been through it, you know what I'm talking about. And, part of creativity talking, we want people to be honest and, reach out. And for guys especially, because guys in this country for some reason think it's a bad thing if you talk about your feelings, yada, yada. But we want everyone to be open and be able to talk, ask for help when you need it. Being hurt shouldn't be an embarrassment. Healing is a good thing. And sometimes what heals you may surprise you. I mean, it could be a simple thing as someone handed you a hot tea. One time I'm doing this catering job. And it was a delivery to a bunch of doctors in a hospital, medical center. And I walk in and I see this lady sitting on the bench. And I take note. I grew up in a house full of women. I'm the youngest of 5. So I take note that this lady's upset. And because I don't like to see women upset, and you can call me whatever, an ist or whatever, whatever, I don't care. Because it's not true. I just have compassion. And so I, see this lady, and I have to get up there because it's a timed thing. So I go and I set up. 20 minutes later, I'm back down the elevator. It was a luncheon for like 65 people. So I come back down, and she's sitting in the lobby on the same bench, and where she came from was the other side, and it was the cancer center. And I sat down. I'm like, "Hey, are you okay?" She's like, "Oh my God, I got my first treatment today. And my first chemo, and I don't have a ride home, and I don't know what to do." And she started getting upset. I said, "Well, hey, you know what?" I said, "Something told me when I went to the gas station this morning that someone's going to need, out of nowhere," and I pulled out of my jacket a brand new candy bar. And giving her that candy bar, you saw her physically change. So you never know. And to me, it was I had an extra candy bar, and it was a token of, hey, hopefully I can make her smile. And if I can make her smile, then I can change the trajectory of her day. and maybe her week and her month and how she, someone stopped to be nice who didn't have to, who doesn't know her. And that's what you're supposed to do as a human being. If you see someone hurting, you're supposed to stop. You're supposed to say, hey, maybe make them laugh, pass milk through their nose if they're drinking a glass of milk or whatever. But, just that simple act of having a candy bar went a huge, long way. When I was working with disability, and I worked with a lot of kids. And so every time we'd go visit a kid, me being a comic book guy, well, I had a stack of comic books that I'd carry with me. And I'd find out, one of the first questions I'd ask the kid in order for him to trust me, I'm like, hey, who's your favorite comic book hero? Who's your favorite superhero? Spider-Man. It's mostly Spider-Man. Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Batman were the top three. And Superman Superman was, of course, for everyone who had a spinal cord injury. Superman was number one because Christopher Reeve. But, so I used to keep these comic books in. And, I would go to the comic book store and say, hey, what do you got? Some old ones. Give me 50 of them for whatever. Here's $20. So I'd get 50 comic books. And they'd sit in the van, and when we went and did our thing, and we did fittings or whatever, or talk with the kids, and the family, see if, the stuff that we had would be able to work. I would find out who his favorite superhero was, and then when I went out to get the materials to measure up the place and start drawing it out and doing the design and see what would work and the functionality that they needed, I would go to the kid by myself and hand him, at first I'd make sure it was okay to give him the comic book with his parents, but I would give him the comic book and we talk a little bit about superheroes and storylines and stuff like that. And, you get someone to trust you and open up everything else. He's not going to fight the process. Oh, here's a cool guy. I wonder if he's going to bring me. So the next time I'd bring, maybe I'd bring an action figure or something. Hey, man, I saw this at the store. Here you go. Or here's a coloring book or whatever. Depending on their level of functionality. And, and you'd see their faces light up and, hey, how cool is that? But, yeah, we're gonna get to talking here more about Selma Blair, and I think this is one of the most powerful documentaries. I actually had to stop it halfway through to collect myself, so I started posting about it on social media and this, that, and the other, and had a few things back and forth. But I'll explain further as I go into this. But Selma Blair is a fucking rock star. So Introducing Selma Blair is on Discovery Plus, and also you can get it on the premium choice on Amazon. So it's a pay-per-view. Yeah, this is this documentary. Okay, so it starts up and. She wakes up and she starts having this interview, and she's basically dressing up like, I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille, from that old movie. I can't think of it off the top of my head because I'm getting older as well. This documentary is very important. It's one of the best documentaries I've seen on disability, someone living with disability, someone living through treatments, and being extremely 100% absolutely open, and here's my scabs. I can only imagine what they didn't show. This is pretty wide open and bare and extremely and brutally honest. So back in August 2018, so she's doing this interview, and she's fine, and she's speaking normally, and then the next thing you know, you can see her, I'll call it short-circuiting for lack of a better term, for people who aren't familiar with the medical jargon that anyway. So she's going into this, and her speech starts getting muddled and everything, and she's starting having times, and she's starting to tick. Her tics are showing up, and you basically get to see her go into a MS attack. And a lot of people, like, there's a lot of, we have a high population here in the Chicago area of people with MS, and a lot of people, their symptoms are minimal, but that's not discounting anything. What's minimal to them isn't minimal to you. I believe everyone should go through some type of disability or some type of medical thing that gives you a wake-up call. And, I went through mine, and it was 2.5 years of getting back to normal and rehabbing and surgeries and all this stuff, back, legs, hip. And, there's a psychological toll it takes on you. Not when you're going through it. Well, yes, when you're going through it, but also, that lingers for a long time. And I think that psychological assistance should be, you should be going frequently just to address your change in lifestyle, the way that you have to do things. Sometimes your world completely changes. Sometimes it's not too bad and you have to make certain little adjustments, but they can still be a pain in the ass. Maybe you can't do this, you can't eat that, you can't do your favorite thing, maybe you can't go to shows anymore, maybe you have to do, crowds may not be a thing that you're interested in. It all depends on where you are psychologically and if you give a shit or not, or, or how delicate the situation can be, because sometimes people living with chronic pain or illness or disability or disease, they can't be walking around in a crowd, because if you bump into them, that's 3 days that they have to deal and might have to lay down and not move so much. You never know, just accidentally bumping into someone. And it's no fault on anybody. I'm just giving you like the spectrum of things that can happen. So MS is a autoimmune disease that attacks the spinal cord and the brain. Okay, and basically, think of an electric wire. Okay, so that electric wire is your nerves. Now, there's a coating on the wire, so when you are working with wires, or you open something up so you can touch the wire and it doesn't give you an electric shock or electrocute you. All right, so that's called melanin. No, mylar sheathing. So what happens is that sheathing starts to break away, and now your electrical wiring is open. So think of if you had, an electrical issue, it's something at your house or in your vehicle. Once that exposed wire starts touching things, it starts short-circuiting things. It can blow fuses. It can wreak havoc. Well, this is the same concept, just in the human body. And I do have to give props to Microsoft Corporation, of all people. They are the largest fund. They donate the most amount of funds to MS research. So they got nickname MS, and so as part of that, they basically the advances that have been made for MS wouldn't have been made as quickly or as far spread if Microsoft Corporation wasn't involved in the millions and millions of dollars they provide the medical research community to look at this problem and try to get to the bottom of it. Everything should be able to be solved. We just haven't been given that knowledge yet. We're getting there, but big corporations sometimes do stand in the way, and that's something that we're going to have to address in a big way, I would assume, moving forward a few years down the road here, because if we try to do it now, people would just freak the fuck out. Okay, so what a lot of people don't, oh, you have MS, so my Uncle Charlie has MS, and it's 1, 2, 3. No. Everyone every disability is like a fingerprint. No, there's no two that are the same. Symptoms vary. Some people have symptoms, others don't. It depends. What's their environment. Are they a negative person? Are they a positive person? There's a whole bunch of different things that go into how things affect you. How do you handle stress? Can you go with the flow? Can you surrender to it? Not, surrender to the flow of what you have to do in order to get better. That in itself can be challenging at times from personal experience, I can tell you that much. So you see, she tries to write a note just to give us an idea on her fine motor skills. And she's having a very difficult time just writing, 3 or 4 words, and most of it is not readable. But yeah, she goes into about, having her son and her mom's power that made her words run deep. Man, she's got some serious issues going on with her mother. Her mother must have been a piece of work. I think she played nice for the cameras, but you can see there's obviously some type of deep-rooted bullshit going on there. And that's just me. I'm not judging. I mean, I had issues with my mom growing up, blah, 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 and my dad. But, I was emancipated at 16, so I get when you have issues with your parents. I get it. But, you move on and, years make those a little bit easier, and then they get older and you got to deal with that. But, So anyway, so she goes back into the interview, and her symptoms are starting to become more under control. And she talks about being an actor. And she seems to, I don't think she thinks she's that talented. I think she's talented. I've always enjoyed her work. But she said she never tried to, one of the things she never tried to be is to be the best actor that she could. And you know what? You don't have to. It's obviously worked. But, yeah, but it seems that her and her mom have a really strained relationship. In October of 2018, she goes public with her story, and I believe she wound up on People magazine. And she did an interview, and because I was wondering why I haven't seen Selma, because she was around and then she wasn't. And she was one of my favorite actors. I'd watch everything that she was in. I'm a huge Hellboy fan, and, going back. And, of course, her kissing Sarah Gellar, I mean, come on. Every guy my age watched that movie, and younger, and probably older, you creeps. But, yeah, Selma always had, when you saw her on screen, you knew that oh, yeah, I'd probably hang out with her just because she was real. You'd see her in interviews. She was a totally cool person. Like, oh, yeah, I'd totally hang out. Yeah, this person would be in my friends group for sure, But, So then you see Selma basically climbing or crawling up the stairs. And then she lays down and basically says, well, that's it for the day. And people don't know when you're going through, if you have chronic pain issues, for instance, or some type of energy tapping disease. I mean, sometimes with me, I'll do a few things. I'm like, okay, that's it. Or if it's really cold and, the arthritis in my back locks me up. Okay. Do I have to work today? No. Okay, good thing I don't have to work for another, 2 days, because those next 2 days, I'll probably be in the bed or on a couch or something because I'm spent physically, and, sometimes that's what you got to do. And getting older is, our viewership here is for, I don't think there's a bunch of 20-year-olds listening, but, this is probably for older dudes. And, if you don't have things starting to go wrong with you, well, your siblings do, or your, people you work with, or your buddies, or your wife or spouse, or, husband, you're going to have to start to deal with some of these physical shortcomings as we get older. And some people are designed for it, some people are not. A lot of people you will find have no fucking patience. And, once you don't fit a certain thing, and, oh, that's a checkbox unmarked. Okay, in the trash you go. So sometimes you wind up losing friends, but you gain better ones. And you also find out who your friends really are when that shit goes down. But so she decides to get. So Selma decides to get a stem cell transplant. So in Chicago, 2019, she goes for treatments. Okay, and man, she says there's a tethered darkness when when she thinks about her mom. She brings up her mom a lot. And it's always in a negative light. She tries to be nice about it, but I understand that. But there's a darkness there, she said. And, then there was an incident on a plane, I guess, a few years back, and she hadn't eaten for like a week. And people are like, a week? I'm like, well, obviously you've never met an actress, because I used to tell my friend all the time, not just one of them, several. Hey, you need to eat a burger. Like, you've eaten one chip and like a quarter dip of salsa in the past like 4 days. Oh, I've got an audition. Don't starve yourself. Fuck those people. Anyway, so she hadn't eaten for like a week. And then she was at an event. She started hammering drinks down. And the next thing you know, she was hammered and on a plane. And there was a situation which, of course, didn't jive with her medical situation, which probably made it worse. And there was a situation that made it into the news. But she goes to Chicago, and she has a little breakdown, and she's feeling it. And what's really good about this documentary, because a lot of times you'll see like, here we have Fran Johnson with MS, and she's going to the doc, and they won't show like the mental reaction, just like, oh, it's just matter of fact, and you just go home and you do, close the door, we don't care. No, this one's like, it comes back to the room with you. There's only a certain couple of things that they cut away that you probably didn't want to see, and then there was one major thing towards the end of the documentary that they fast forwarded out of respect for Selma, I would imagine, and but you got to see the impact that situation that she found herself in had on her and those around her. So he talks to her mom on her phone, and she asks her a few questions, and basically tells her how she was scared of Selma as a baby because she hadn't had a baby. Now, I guess Selma's mom was older when she had her. I don't know. But she was afraid of Selma as a baby. So that maybe there was, she had that, what do you call it, postpartum depression maybe? Or maybe she had some other things going on like, bipolar. Who knows? But so Selma tells her mom that she loves her. And there's a long pause, and then they cut away. So, I mean, that shouldn't be a delayed response when your kid tells you you love them. It's right back. It's not something you have to think over. So that, of course, I'm sure, doesn't help her with her daily battles with low self-esteem, which I don't, everyone else is like, how can you have low self-esteem? Well, because people do. And you didn't grow up the way they did, and just because they're on a magazine cover or whatever, doesn't mean that she's filthy rich because she's been in a few things. Maybe she's better off than, let's say, you or I. And, maybe she made a little bit of money, bought a house, and is able to pay for those things that happen in the house for the next 40 years. Okay, but when, just taxes for, you don't need, anyway. So, but she's still working. And I think she has a lot to say, and I think this documentary is going to more point the way of what she does in the future versus what she has in the years behind her. So she says she now understands her mom. The gobbledygook of the brain, because her brain is her brain is affected by the situation that they both find themselves in. One being the mother and being older, and Selma having to deal with brain issues, having MS. And so she says that she understands her mom and what's going on with her, unlike her sisters who just don't understand. They don't understand the gibberish, the gobbledygook, as she calls it. Like when my dad, he had Alzheimer's. And so there's a book I've been writing. I keep putting it down, picking it back up, putting it back down, because it's heavy. When you're writing about the death of your parent or a family member, whatever, it can get really heavy. So my dad had Alzheimer's, and he was a magician. And so he's going into this one trick, and he couldn't do cards anymore. He couldn't shuffle. So when I saw my dad not being, he was a close-up magician. So when I saw him not do that, that's the day he died in my brain. But anyway, so he's sitting there at the table, and he goes, so what's basic? I'm like, what's basic? Instead of focusing on, what do you mean what's basic? What do you mean? Let's give you more negative. Calm the fuck down, people. I understood the gist. So I'm like, okay, so I'll just follow along. And then he started talking gibberish, what most people would call gibberish. And this isn't a slight. This is part of the things that happen with dementia, Alzheimer's, brain injury, yada, yada. So I just started talking, yabba, yabba, but I got the vibe. It was like dealing with someone who was tripping on acid in high school. A lot of my buddies did LSD. I didn't, so I was like the resident trip master. And it was the same as dealing with them. As long as you caught the vibe, you could go on the ride with them. So you could literally talk like, jabba, tsiba, jabba, jabba, tsiba, jabba, jabba. But the feeling behind what you're saying is what they're getting. That's what you're expressing anyway. Let's say if an alien came down from another world, they're like, what the hell's coming out of their mouths? Oh, they're expressing emotion through their mouth hole. Okay. So that's basically what it is. So I was able to have certain conversations with my dad in maybe asking him how he's feeling, and he could explain in his language, but it was all tonal response. So, that was something I found that was very interesting. But it's not about what words make sense. It's about what they're trying to say, and that's what Selma says in the documentary. And that's totally true. It's not about the words they're saying. Don't get stuck on, oh, well, he called cabinet a chair. Okay, but did you know that he wanted tomato soup from the cabinet when he said it? Yeah. Okay. Moving on. That's how, don't bring it up. You don't need to confuse them or get them agitated, this, that, and the other, and then, just say, oh, that's what I mean. Did you mean tomato soup, Dad? Yeah. Oh, okay. Cool. That's how easy it should be. Don't make it more complicated than it should. So it looks like the relationship that she has with her big sister is a good one. It talks about dragging her leg as a kid. Growing up, I always drug my leg, this, that, and the other, and people make fun of me for it. And she's like, it was MS, Mom. And, there are certain things to that, You'll notice, like, if you have certain physical ailments, you'll be like, oh, that started when I was, like, 7. And I was, okay, now all that shit makes sense. Happens more than you think. But, so Selma goes on and... So she's talking about losing her hair, and she was talking with her son and asking him, well, what do you think, this, that, and the other. He's like, well, I'm kind of worried about you losing your hair. So she's like, oh, okay, well, let's shave my head, then my hair won't be lost. I'll take it off so I won't lose it. And that was extremely touching to watch. Her son shaving her head. When my sister got leukemia, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma as well, I shaved my head when she, before she started chemo, and then I just kept it bald so she could keep her hair. That was kind of like the deal I made with the universe if I kept my head shaved. And I was a hair guy. I loved having my hair, but I was going bald anyway. But, that was my thing. I'll just keep my head shaved, and that was kind of the deal I made with the universe. But, so then she goes into, so she's going to, during this treatment, your face gets puffy. And she always has a pain in her neck, and she goes into this vibrator story. She's like, oh, yeah, I'm at the so-and-so store at the airport, and da-da-da-da, and I'm like, oh, I need this thing for my neck. And the guy's like, yeah, it should work fine. It turns out she's like, yeah, and then, still look like a little penis. But, yeah, so she orders this other massager, and it turns out to be, a vibrator again. But at least she got to sing into this one on camera. Okay, so they have to evaluate her at Northwestern Medical Facility to see if she meets the criteria to have the stem cell transplant. Okay, so the patient can only have treatments administered if the patient is off of all MS meds and symptoms have not progressed past a certain point. Now, I'm going to be reading some of the titles from the documentary. This is spoiler-filled, so of course, if you want to watch it, please do and come back and do this. But I am going to bring up some of the key facts that they brought up in the documentary that they put on screen, just because I think people, as they did, people should know these numbers. So, okay, so she gets cleared for treatment after a week of tests, and one of the docs tries to blame it on being, it's not functional MS, and that's basically meant that she figured out that what he was saying, like, oh, it's in your mind, and she got really upset, and she was, crying over that. And here's the thing, man: when you're in the situation, every doctor's appointment, every scan, everything. It's high stakes poker, and you don't know what's going to happen. So yeah, if people are going, "Oh man, this fuck," put yourself in your shoes. Like, well, how do you think? Oh, hey, when you have this back surgery, you found out you have this thing, you're supposed to be in a wheelchair by 50. That's what I was told after my back surgery. I'm like, well, that's not going to happen because fuck that. And but I worked at, I took up disc golf, and I made sure that my torso, and I kept up movement. But I still am going to have to wind up getting another procedure. But technology and medical research has gotten to a point to where the diagnosis that I had 25, 30 years ago doesn't mean anything compared to today, because it's going to be uncomfortable, but there are certain things that I can do that will keep me out of that situation, longer. And maybe, last till I'm 75. At that point, who fucking cares? But whatever it is, But, when you hear that and you're, not 30 yet, that freaks you the fuck out a little bit. And that's a lot, because, I was obnoxious and having fun, let's say, but you wouldn't want to put that on anybody. That's a heavy thing. It's also a different thing when you wake up from a situation and life's changed and you had nothing to do with it, or you had something to do with it, and now you're changed and there is no other way. It's this way moving forward. How do we get to the point to where we can be at our best physical, the best outcome for your physical body and your mental status, and those two should be combined. Don't forget about the psych part. So she finds out that this doctor basically had to do that so they could test her, and she's like, what the fuck? What? You knew this guy was going to say that? So there is a psychological toll that goes with being disabled. Even, you've seen people, even if they break their legs, they get crabby. This one lady I was dating, she had the easiest hairline fracture in a walking boot and a scooter. And it's like, being around her is like the fucking world fucking ended. It's like, Jesus Christ, you broke your leg. You get around, you have a walking cast on, it's not that big a deal. And it was like I burned down Rome or something, And so, basically, we didn't date for much longer after that because apparently I was an asshole for bringing that up, even though I couldn't bring up my pain issues that I deal with daily, and I usually don't, but it was just kind of funny that wasn't. Anyway, so so the MS attacks the central nervous system, spinal cord, and brain. So when you're being evaluated for stem cell transplant, okay, they have this thing called NIDA, and that's no evidence of disease activity, and no relapse, no new lesions. Was the report that she had? She had no new lesions. Also, after getting stem cell research, it seems that the drugs that they administer give a 40 to 50% increase in activity and quality of life, where the stem cells are at 60 to 80% difference, and so it's a marked difference. It's a huge thing. Now, what they're saying is the baseline, what you get to, probably be 2 years out is when, whatever you have 2 years out is what you got. Kind of like with the traumatic brain injury. A lot of the times you have to wait. Like, oh, is he going to get better or is she going to get better? Well, dude, it's a brain injury. It takes time. And usually right around month, after the 6th month, you get a pretty good idea. Granted, yes, you can get better after that, but you have a pretty good idea where you're at after 6 months, depending on the situation. And usually that's kind of where you're going to be at or in the neighborhood of. There could be a few things that over time just unfold and, you get better or you don't. And that's just kind of how it works, But MS is not curable, and the drugs do come with side effects. So stem cell treatment is helping autoimmune system disorders do things that have not been seen before. And that's amazing. Now, I was on the board or the committee for stem cell research through the governor here in Illinois, and we got $100 million worth of research money to be spent in Illinois for Illinois stem cell medical research. And so it's kind of cool to see, 15 years later, 10, 15 years or whatever, 12, seeing the activities of that committee that basically got the money for this to all happen. And I was on the board of directors of Spinal Cord Injury Association here in Illinois, and that's how I got to be on the committee. And because they wanted someone in the spinal cord injury area to have say. And so it's cool to see all these years later that, the stem cell clinics are opening up. We have all these people starting to get help, starting to be better. And, there's a lot of people who help things happen along the way. I don't want my horn tooted, but I think it's totally fucking cool. And I smiled because the treatment that she's getting, I had a little tiny bit to do with making it happen. And knowing that, that's going to make a huge marked difference in many people's lives from here on out. That is totally fucking cool. But, so since 1995, 3,000 patients with autoimmune diseases have been treated with stem cell transplants. 83% of MS patients have had no evidence of NIDA for 2 years past treatment, and that's no evidence of disease activity. Now, I took a lot of notes during this documentary because this fucking documentary is fantastic. And Selma Blair, you are a legend, my dear. And one day I hope to shake your hand because what you've done for humanity with this documentary is fucking beautiful. So 65 or 67% of MS patients had NIDA 5 years after treatment. The earliest phase of human trials came with a mortality rate of 7.3%, and but it did stop progression of diseases that they were working with. Okay, so then you get to the mobilization phase of the treatment. Okay, so it's the administering of treatment via stem cells in the bloodstream in a form of chemotherapy. Okay, so the next day you're out of the hospital and you have to come home and give injections to yourself, basically, which is actually how you're extracting the stem cells. So maybe you're extracting, not injecting, but who knows? I probably had some tears in my eyes and I was winding back. Because I'm human. I'm a guy. And guys, you're going to cry in this movie. I'm telling you. If you love Selma Blair, even if you have no heart in your fucking chest, you will cry during this documentary. And if you're a person with compassion, you're definitely going to cry during this movie because it's fucking real. And man, hats off. Hats off. Very, yeah. When some people gave me shit for right after my brother committed suicide, that I was on a podcast within 24 hours. Well, I wanted, like Selma did, but I'm not comparing. I wanted people to see the real effect it had on families. Like this is how crushing it is when your older brother takes himself out. And so you have to be that real and honest for people to believe what you're saying. And a lot of people won't believe what you're saying until they know you're honest. Well, I don't think there's a more honest documentary on disability, on acting, or humanity than this thing. Holy fuck. I really enjoyed this in case you haven't picked that up on it. Enjoyed it in a bittersweet way, Okay, so then the stem cells are used to capture. So stem cells are used to replace cells and tissues that have been damaged or lost due to the disease that you're fighting. Stem cells will transform to immune cells if there is a deficiency of that in the body. So the harvest is she goes at harvest phase, she has a little complication. She gets a pain in her heart and couldn't feel anything, and her vision went white. I think that might have been, I'm not a doctor. I don't proclaim to be one. I have worked with people with the situation. That could have been psychosomatic. I'm not saying her MS was, but that there's high stress going on. When you're doing this kind of thing, I mean, things go sideways, awry all the time over, your anxiety, fear. I mean, that's one of the most damaging things you can have for an immune system is fear. So when people stoke fear and they're all about fear, back up, Jack. Get the fear out of it, and because you're harming the person you're trying to protect. So cap that shit, okay? And so she goes to have the procedure, and she explains, she's getting treated when her vision whited out and everything. And what she was explaining, she was watching it from the ceiling, so it sounded like she had an out-of-body experience during this time and then floated back into her body. I don't think she died. I just think she had an out-of-body experience, but what do I know? So her son gets picked up by a family member, and she shuts the door. She has a moment, and she kind of loses her shit a little bit, and the camera cuts to black. And you know what? That moment, maybe not for the cameras. That's in between her and her son, and that's that part right there should, I don't think people should have a problem with the cutaway on that. But so it's 5 days of intense chemo then 2.5 weeks of a hospital stay once you get the treatment. So her immune system will be down to 1% of what it was before she went into the hospital. So 1% of the immune system, it'll be down to, and then what the stem cells do, it rebuilds the neurophonetic what do you call it? And so they have to check her vitals every 4 hours, monitor for infection. But it's rebuilding her immune system without the bad. So, like I said, I can only imagine what they didn't show. This documentary does go deep and dark. There are moments in it that are going to surprise you as someone being from quote-unquote Hollywood that, this shouldn't be seen. I don't think she gives a shit about any of that. But I am amazed. And, in order for people to understand certain things, stories must be told. And the story has to resonate. And, man, if this story doesn't resonate with you, you might want to see somebody for that. But Selma goes on with a monologue about how her face is puffy and, tells people living in the Midwest, who like her bacon and biscuits, she looked absolutely beautiful. But so transplant day comes, and there's a marked difference in her attitude and her mental clarity in the time of, you're hyper-focused when you're about to have this stuff done here. She's looking a lot better just in, the way she's, her body language and everything, but she's definitely taxed physically from the chemo. So a deacon comes in to pray and then sings with Selma, and she has another emotional moment there, and here's the thing about religion. I'm not into it, but hey, if it helps you get through the day, more power to you. I'm not going to make fun of you for it. If it helps you, if it helps you heal, if it helps you think clear, but if you're going to use your religion as a way to hate, discriminate, and disparage, get the fuck out. Even if you use that, if you're an atheist, then use your atheism to do that shit. Get the fuck out of here. But, so after her treatment, she's basically saying that her mouth tastes like dirty pennies, and she's working a puzzle, and her left hand isn't... her left hand still has some issues with rigidity and fine motor action, but her right hand seems to be doing okay, the day that they film this. But so they do this whole montage of her dancing because she's feeling better and she's got, her attitude's blooming, and for the most part she seems positive, and so she starts doing these dancings, and she's doing it with the cane, and you can tell that, she has some training and she really enjoys it. And it was a nice break, because when you finally get past a certain point, like I remember when I had my back surgery, for 4 months I was not comfortable. Not at night, not during the day, not during midday, not during midnight. I could sit down, lay down, stand, walk, not comfortable at all for 1 second for 4 months, and it drove me fucking crazy. So, it took a year and a half to go a day without being pain-free, and that was with a lot of deep tissue massages being done and this, that, and the other. I'm not a fan of pharmaceuticals. So I do use medicinal for my pain management, because the pills that they had me on, which I did not abuse, I took as directed, because pills are a nasty thing to try to get off of if you get hooked on them. Worse than, alcohol, heroin, whatever. And just didn't want that. So it wound up giving me colitis, and it's been Yeah, it's a shitty thing. But, yeah, not fun. But, yeah, so I don't tend to take any pain medicine unless I can't move. And since I've had colitis, that's been on 2 occasions in the past 20 years, give or take. Yeah, I think twice I've been on yeah. But, so anyway, she starts dancing and moves around. You can just, everyone who's been through a milestone, whether it be treatment or whatever, and you get to ring the bell or whatever it is, you get to that point and you get to dance. Dance as much as you can, people. Guys, I'm telling you, start dancing. Your lady will love you for it. Don't be a fuck. Dance. One of the best things you can do for PTSD, and a lot of people dealing with disabilities have PTSD because of the situation that got them there, or for the situation they are dealing with. The best thing, according to a new study came out last year, one of the best things you can do for PTSD is dance. So, dance in your chair if you're in a wheelchair. Got a cane, dance at the cane. If someone can hold you up, have them. But yeah, dance opens things up, makes you feel better. We're here to live. We're not here to watch other people live. So Selma spends 19 days in isolation, and then she's released from Northwestern Medical. So it seems with, going back and, throughout this whole thing, she's been overstimulated a few times, and that really fucks with her situation. So going into public, this, that, and the other, sunlight, da-da-da-da. I said some things were, could be symptomatic. Well, I don't know if they're really addressing her anxiety or not, or what's going on, but there's obviously a massive anxiety component working along with this. I'm not a doctor. I'm just speculating, and I'm not telling anybody to get any type of treatment or tell you what to do with your body. I'm just observing as a watcher of the documentary. But yeah, she seems to have an issue with the overstimulation, so she should be like living in the country but close to a really good medical facility. That'd probably help her out, I think. But what do I know? But yeah, the mental toll can be debilitating at times for people going through a situation like this or similar or another. Could be cancer, could be car wreck, could be MS, ALS. But it sure is debilitating at times for some. Others, they just hide it better. You should probably have some therapy too, because it doesn't hurt to talk to people. But and then the people around you get sick of hearing about it, because, well, dude, your whole life is a fucking full-time fucking, what's today? Well, today I got to monitor with this and da-da-da. It's always something when you're disabled. You always have to, your time is not your time. Your time is what's left over from what everyone else wants from you. But, so she has a moment about her son, and this documentary really, it does show how personal disability is, and how, it's personal to you. You're the one going through it. You're the one feeling it. People can assume they know what you're feeling, but they don't. And they can try to help, and a lot of times when people try to help in certain ways, it's not helping, it's hindering. But you have to let them help so they feel better. So then even though you're disabled, you wind up placating those around you so they feel better about what's happening to you, and you wish you would just, let them do the things that you need to do in the way you need to do them with your new life change. And, dealing with people who are, being sent into long-term stay facilities, one of the most common things people do is leave the person who's going there out of the conversation. And that's something I had to deal with on a daily basis. And it's like, hey, he's in the room, right? Or she's in the room. Why don't we ask her what she wants, and then we'll go from there, not what you guys are bitching about. So what I would do is I'd have the the siblings or whatever, I'd have them leave the room and say, let me talk to your father or your mother for 5 minutes alone, please, if you don't mind. And so they'd leave. And they're like, oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to come in here? I'd say, okay, you're the problem. I said, no, but I'm not mad at him for not letting me go to the 8th grade dance with Danny Jacobson. See where I'm going? We were just in there talking with your father and what his limitations are in the new bathroom that you guys remodeled. And in order for him to use it properly, we'd have to put in some grab bars, and we'd have to do X, Y, and Z. And your major fucking concern was that there'd be drill marks in the fucking marble. Drill marks in the marble. It's his fucking house. He's the one who has an issue, and you're worried about the marble for resale value. Wow, you're invested. So, yeah, and then 5 minutes later, we'd come out and be like, okay, we just made an appointment at XYZ, and, we're going to leave in 20 minutes, and we'll be back. Like, well, can we go with you? No. Not this time. Second time, sure. But I'm going to show them around because I don't have any. I'm like, hey, this is your options. This is what's going on. This is X, this is Y, this is Z. Wherever you want, what your financial situation is. You know what you're going to be able to afford or not. And so you have that conversation, and then boom, you set them up, and then you go back with their kids or whatever, and then they start the process of moving along and gaining as much independence as they can and living in the best facility that they can find with their financial means, But what do I know? So, second chance. So she feels taxed as the brain heals, okay? And judging from... so she didn't want to judge the process, and then she wound up judging the process, which means, she's just fucking human. That's all. And, but yeah, you have to give it time. You can't rush it. There's nothing you can do to make the process go faster with the brain injury, or anything related to, your nervous system or your central nervous system. There's no easy shortcuts for that shit. It is what it is. So then we see Selma 11 weeks post-treatment. She talks about being the best actress she could be. And she wasn't really concerned about that. But, this whole thing about, getting treatment and getting better is the metaphor of getting back on the horse. And guess what? She's a equestrian. So literally, we get to see Selma get back on the horse. So she does exactly that. Hippotherapy is also great for people with disabilities, and especially MS. I don't know if you people know what hippotherapy. No, it is not a hippo from Africa in a pool. Hippotherapy is riding horses. And people go, well, how can riding horse be therapy? Well, see, there's something unique about a horse. When horses walk, okay, and you're on a horse, imagine what your body's doing, okay? So it mimics your upper body, your torso, your core, and your upper body mimics a human walking. It's got the same gait that a human does while walking. So when the human's riding it, not the same space, but spatially for the horse versus spatially for the human, their steps kind of jive. So basically you get the benefit of walking if you can't walk. And that's why it's important. And that has all different types of benefits associated with it. But, the benefits to this are not to be ignored because there's many programs that do this. And, man, it's worth its weight in gold for sure. So then we have Selma looking amazing in her pink suit and rocking the cane. And she has the same hairstyle as I do, shaved, ha-cha-cha. She looks amazing in this, and I'm probably gonna use to post this picture for the podcast thumbnail because she looks like $1,000,000 and she's here to kick ass. Whatever she's gonna do next, she's gonna kick ass. I am just I can't say enough about this documentary. It made me cry like fucking 20 times or some shit like that, and that's okay. I'm okay with crying. But yeah, you get a feeling of joy from her in that moment. Like it's infectious because you get to share that, it's the little moments in life that you triumph. People are like, oh, what about the times? Yeah, but it was more important, when that happened at that moment when my son looked at me and he said that. That's way more important than the 5 years of XYZ or what I did to this thing over here. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. Why wouldn't it be? But to other people, the other thing would be the big deal. I don't know. But it was a big deal seeing her rocking that suit. And then hearing her say she's never felt comfortable in her body here on Earth. That's unfortunate, But that's why, she's talented in the way that she's talented and has given us so much, But, so she goes and sees her doctor, and 2 years out is what they give for stem cell reach. So for stem cell, 2 years out from your treatment, that's basically, you can expect where you might get a little better, you might not. But that's where you're going to, basically, that's going to be your baseline. So she goes in to see the doctor, and she's got no new lesions. So it's the first time in her medical history since knowing she had MS that there was no new lesions on her brain. And then she flies to Detroit to see her mom who's dying, but they do not cover that. Probably because that would be a whole other fucking documentary, and that was probably way too painful to watch, and because she's got to approve this. She probably didn't want to relive that for 3 months in an editing suite, or 3 months of looking at this and that and the other, and I don't blame her. But so it's March. We go to March 2020, and she's got her hair back, and she said she's feeling sick today. And, she's frustrating with continuing symptoms of fatigue. And she seeks out a new doctor. And Dr. Regina Berkovich said that she has damage to the gray matter of her brain, which other doctors did not point out. Here's the thing about doctors. Oh, yeah, we're not going to point that out to you because why worry about that? You got other shit to worry about. Well, no, that's fucking information. Like every normal person I know and abnormal person, they would want to know what that is, But what do I know? But, we here at vaudevillepress.com salute Selma Blair and everyone dealing with the disability today, tomorrow, yesterday. We know your struggles. We know that sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes it affects you, your relationships, your job, what other people think of you. And good thing I've never gave a shit what people think about me because they can get bent. But, live your life, be happy. Don't live your life to make others happy. Make yourself happy. Because you can't make anyone else happy if you're not happy with yourself. So, yeah, the doctors didn't point that out. So the gray matter, for people who don't know, who may be medical specialists on social media, but what the gray matter does, it has to do with muscle control, emotions, and speech. And, she does stumble with speech here and there, and that's, nothing wrong with that. That's to be had, of course. But her mom winds up passing away, And she feels bad that she can't be buried because now we're in the midst of the pandemic. And so she can't travel to see her mom. She can't travel. I understand the grieving from a distance bit. When my brother passed away, I don't mean to, knock this into the dirt, but my brother died 2 weeks into the lockdown. I was with, taking care of my 86-year-old mother. No one could hug each other, so me and my mom were looking down on the window while my 2 sons and my siblings and nephews and niece were out there, and that's how we grieved, from a second-story window to the grass on the front lawn of the condo building. And he still hasn't been buried, which bothers me. But all I can do is, remember him the way that I always have, and I miss my big brother. But so yeah, her mom passes away, and she thinks it's hilarious. I would have done the same. She leaves a funny voicemail to her mom and said that her mom actually would have gotten a huge kick out of that and would have poured a drink and lit up a smoke. And so that was funny to see, because grief is a funny thing. Some people think you shouldn't do this. Some people think you should do that. You know what? Grief, like a disability, is like a fingerprint. Works different with everybody. Different things work. One of the things as a family eulogist I would do when someone dies, most people are like, okay, let's have a moment of silence. No, there's been enough fucking moment of silences, and let's get everyone way more depressed. No. Chances are most people these days, they want to celebrate the person who passed away. So, basically my thing is, I did this for my ex-father-in-law. I'm like, okay, everybody, and they're like waiting for the moment of silence. I'm like, just think of the funniest thing that Ed did, either made you laugh or smile. Just think about that for 10 seconds. And if you want to laugh out loud and like get snotty, like laughing because you're crying laughing, do it. So the whole room started laughing, and it changed the entire thing. I don't want people to be sad when they remember me. I want them to fucking laugh their asses off and go, oh, that crazy motherfucker. Oh my God, did I ever tell you about the time he did what? Yep. But that's what I would like. But, she said she's depressed. Selma was depressed at the end there, and she was thinking about becoming a recluse. I think she was just feeling sorry for herself that day. And that's okay. That happens, and you should do that occasionally. In the end, she said, in the end of this documentary, she said, sorry, the people next door are a little rowdy. You have made, she's like, hopefully, you have made more than a contribution. She was speaking about making a contribution, and I think that she basically has made more of a contribution for those that see you live with MS, and in a big way, those that live in the shadows and those that you've never met, So there is no pity here at all in anything that I say, Selma. All just 100% admiration of the strength of an individual who has shared her human experience in the most beautiful way possible. Thank you for doing this for the entirety of humanity, and especially for those feeling a little bit out of sorts and not feeling welcome. Those people who live in the shadows, dealing with pain and discomfort. So thank you for introducing yourself. Selma Blair, you are loved. Thanks, everybody. This is Vince for Creativity Talking. We'll see you next time.